All right, welcome to another episode of the WP Crowd. Today will be a good one. We're recording it on an off day, but should be a good one. Today we're talking about WordPress and WordPress products and how to get into it. Should be a good conversation. As usual, I'm going to start with introductions. So I'm going to start with my left with Carl.
I muted my video by accident. Hi, I'm Carl Alexander. I write at carlalexander.ca. I'm a developer, and I write a lot about PHP, WordPress, and other things, and I also do a bit of consulting on the side.
Awesome. Chris?
I'm Chris Flanagan. You can find me at whoischris.com. I am a WordPress developer engineer. I do plugins and I speak at WordCamps, and yeah, that's pretty much the gist of me.
WordCamp St. Louis was your first talk, right?
Yes, it was, and it was freaking a great experience. I really enjoyed it. Asheville's up next week. I got WP Campus after that, and I'm really pulling for Montreal as well. Carl.
Carl.
You got to keep that streak going.
Yeah.
Went from zero to like, oh, by the way, I'm speaking at 3 events in like the next month.
Yeah. Hey, it's my first year doing this. I made a goal, and now I'm overachieving. All right, don't kill me.
Good, that's good. Always aim for overachieving.
Yep.
All right, Josh.
Hi, I'm Josh Pawlik. I make WordPress plugins at calderawp.com. We make Caldera forms, a drag and drop responsive form builder, and Inget, a automated A/B testing plugin. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh412. And I want to point out, I don't know if you can see this, but my mug is really funny. I don't know if I ever showed this to you guys.
Oh, for sucking. I get it, Josh. I get it, and I like it.
I bought this special.
And I'm Roy. I'm a WordPress developer. I build things.
He's depressed now that he saw Josh's mug.
Yeah, I can't one up that. So today we're talking about WordPress products. People have asked me in the past how to get into it. I was talking to a mutual friend of all of ours about getting into it. I thought maybe we should just have a quick conversation here about how to get into it and how to what it really entails. I think people kind of are field of dreams sometimes. They're like, oh, I have an idea, let me build it, and I'm just going to sell 1 million copies of it. But definitely not usually the case. So let's start at the beginning. I know some of you have, or all of us have plugins either on GitHub or the repo. But for someone who just wants to get in, let's start with where do you find your ideas, or how do you get inspiration for your ideas? Is it something that you kind of comes to you one day? Are you looking at other plugins and seeing that they don't do something that you wish it would do, and you're like, I can create a new plugin for this? Based on what you've already released and put out there in the world, where do you guys get your ideas from? I'll just throw this at Chris first.
Yeah, sure, man. Actually, I wanted to answer that because I'm kind of new to the world of plugin development. I think is closing in on a year that I made my first one that I put on the repository that was a legit plugin. It's part of WordPress now. Before that, I was hacking them together. I was like, if a client needed something, I couldn't find a plugin to do it, but I found one that almost did it. I would download it, and then I would go into its code and like tweak it until it did what I want. And that caused a lot of problems, which is kind of the base of my talk in Asheville, you know, leveling up, getting away from being the hacky plugin guy to one that actually solves the problem from the ground up. So I think the majority of my plugins right now have come from me being there at a computer on a project, like, I need WordPress to do this, and it doesn't. I can do a search in a repository, find things that are either bloated but kind of does it, or something that half does it that originally I go and hack, but instead I decided to take the time to actually sit down and learn to make a plugin from start to finish. And that's where all my ideas really have come from at this point. You know, things that I just needed to do but weren't there. I think my best example, which is my most, as far as ratio goes, install to active or downloaded to active plugin is my registration and comment blocker. I have so many websites I've done where they're informational sites, they have a little interaction, but they don't need users, they don't need comments, they just need the basics of what you get from a website. And so they would get hacked, and they would get people, just bombarding the registration scripts and stuff. So I just set up a very simple one-page plugin that hooks into all the filters and hooks that have to do with comments and registration and shuts them all down. And that plugin it blew my mind. It doesn't get a ton of downloads. I think it's at like 80 or 90 right now, but it's also at 70 active installs because people need that. They install it, they turn it on, and they just forget about it. So most of my plugins definitely come from a need that I have in a moment, and I just turn it into a plugin project.
Yeah, it's about scratching your own itch.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a really common way to do products. I normally recommend it unless you're me and then you just get this idea that's way too complex. That's actually how I met Roy. I had like this it was error monitoring for WordPress. I still think it's a brilliant idea, but everybody that I presented to was like, the few people that did understand, they were like, Carl, you're crazy for building this, and then most of them were like, I don't understand what's going on here.
You need to wait for the rest of the WordPress world to catch up to you. That's why.
You're just explaining it wrong, Carl.
Well, I thought it was a cool idea, but yeah. So that's the tricky part of the scratching your own itch. So if you're a bit too far ahead and your itch is really like the itch of one person, well, then it doesn't work out so well. But for most people, if you have an itch, there's a good chance that a lot of other people have that itch as well, so you're going to help them.
Wait, but what's wrong with scratching your own itch just to scratch your own itch? I mean, I have a client right now that uses this ridiculous plugin for scheduling classes and stuff like, or not plugin, but third-party service for scheduling. They have a multi-site, and all their different franchises use this tool to allow people to schedule classes for their acting classes they have for kids. They need.
Yeah.
I've been hacking their theme for years to try and make this thing work with their WordPress site, and I realize that's a terrible idea. So what's wrong with me building a plugin, which I'm doing, that serves just them and just that purpose? It's scratching that itch.
It's different when you're like doing it for a client versus when you're doing it to get it out there. I mean,
yeah,
I build one-off plugins every day, and I work on them every day at work, but we don't open source any of that.
That's a good point. I missed that part of Carl's. I didn't realize he was trying to make something extremely niche popular, because that's a terrible idea, Carl. I don't know how to do that.
Well, so I think the problem here is differentiating between a plugin and a product, right?
Mm.
So we all build tons of plugins every day, right? But the question is, because you need to, right? You need it. You have a problem, you need to solve it. That's a perfectly good reason to make a plugin, but where we get confused is when we confuse a good idea for a plugin with a good idea for a product, right? Because the difference is that a product solves a problem for more than you, and a product solves a problem that people would pay for, and there are enough people to pay for it that you can reach to make it worth it to you, right? So making a plugin to solve a problem is fine, but I think the mistake that I've made and many people have made when they end up with something really cool to crickets is that they didn't solve a problem anybody would pay to solve, or they didn't explain that, right? In Carl's case, Carl made a really cool system that solves a ton of really real problems. And then, no offense, Carl, you did a bad job of explaining what problem it solved.
Mm.
I, for the longest time, was like, Carl, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And then we had that one conversation where I was like, Carl, that's brilliant to do. It solves so many problems. And that was your only problem with your presentation, was you didn't explain it right. You didn't explain what you were solving and what it could do. Right? You solved the problem. You solved the problem. It's a problem that lots of people have, and then you didn't really explain the value. And those three things are all equally important. Probably more so than the thing working.
Yeah, it's all tied into not just, first of all, there's four of us on here right now. We're all developers. There's no users on here. When we say scratch our own itch, they're going to be developer itches, not necessarily user itches. So we're going to build something that is a developer-focused thing, and that kind of ties into the whole market. And that's something I wanted to ask. When you are creating your idea, or when you're, let's say, thinking about your idea, you're thinking about, let's say, if you're scratching your own itch, you are solving your own problem. And as we're all developers, they're all developer problems. So huge, awesomely built, error-handling WordPress service plugin thing is awesome for those who care about it, but most of the people that use WordPress and install WordPress aren't going to know what the hell it is because they don't really care. So do you? It's kind of weird because it's like tied in. Like, do you have you built plugins? And I think Josh has done this, where like you build a plugin for a market versus Chris. Your example was I built a plugin because I just needed to use it. Carl, I think you wanted to bring your idea out into the market, but it just no one latched onto it.
I mean,
go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit, I don't know, like, now it's, like, easy, like, I've been writing for a little while, like, when I met Roy, I was barely writing, like, the dynamics have changed. Maybe if I tried again today, I'd be more successful at it. Obviously, I've gotten better also at explaining things within the context of the WordPress community. I was much more thinking WordPress plus PHP, which was probably not the best idea at the time. But those are complicated things. That, like, overall, like, I didn't feel that even if I promote, like, what ended up happening is the product solved a real need, but there was no education. So that's kind of where I started writing from. I was like, okay, well, if I really want to do one of these products again, I should really be able to explain these technical things or have people that are interested in these technical problems, which was hard before because that didn't really exist much. Like, really, nobody really kind of caters to that crowd, and most of that crowd I don't even know if it exists. Well, now I'm like, I feel like I'm building it up a bit, but before I didn't think it existed necessarily, so that was part of the test as well. So it's a complicated setup, but that's why I'm taking a lot of my time now for, again, the goal is still, again, to do another product, but this time I'm taking a much slower approach at it to make sure that I understand the dynamics, and I'm not like, oh my god, this is amazing, but there's only Carl that understands.
Yeah, that brings up something else, and I guess as you go into, let's say you have your idea, some people will spend time, getting their idea together, and for me that's never been the case. I like thinking of an idea and then like having it built within a day is ideal for me. Or at least starting to build it. I don't like. I'm not a big planner, and I think it just depends on what you're building. And so I think, when you're building something quick, it's important to take into consideration the MVP of it. So where do you guys stand on that? Do you guys build out MVPs? Carl, was what you built an MVP, or did you just go, F it, let's just put everything impossible into this thing and build this monster? Where do you guys define out that line, if you do at all?
So I used to be a build it type guy, and the best part about that was that it was a great learning experience, and even if it was a disaster, like, I'd write an article for Torque about it. Like, I was looking at a plugin the other day that I was like, oh, this is garbage, that'll never work, but like, I forget what it was I was trying to learn in the process, and like, now I know that, and now I have that skill, and now I can do that. But like, I'm busy and I don't have a lot of time, and I'm like not productive at all right now, and so I've got to limit that. So for me, it's that sometimes I need to think through the product by running some code, But right now, for me to make an MVP, I've got to believe that, like, I've got to let a week or two pass to make sure I still think it's a brilliant idea. Because I can be pretty much convinced anything's an amazing idea in the moment. When you get that, like, oh my god, I have an idea and I'm just going to build it. I think I've wasted so much time on that, not giving it a week to figure out if I honestly think it's that cool.
I think that for me, it's a lot different because plugins aren't my income at all. You know, I have a 40-hour-a-week development job. I have a lot of freelance work, and plugins are fun to build. Like, I enjoy building them. I love having an idea and saying, let's just fucking do it and build this sucker out, and sitting down on the couch for 8 hours and building it. You know, for me, I get a joy out of it. Now, if I was building a plugin, and I don't have any ideas for a plugin that would be like a business model, so I don't know. I've never really put the thought into building it that way, and I think there's value in that because, like I said, I have a day job that pays the bills, and I have my freelance, and building plugins is a hobby to me, and I just love doing it. So that's the other end of the spectrum as far as being a developer in plugins goes.
Yeah, for me, I have 2 plugins I could say that are products. I built one, and both of them were the Roy type of, somebody came up to me and said, oh, I have this kind of idea, and I'm like, oh my god, this is good. Like, sit down for like a day or two, like write most of it, ship it, and it usually when I got approached for these 2 plugins, the feature set was small, so it was pretty much MVP in size. So it was usually a plugin with a single functionality. Both of them were integrations with a third-party API, and there was not too much around that. But so those got built out a lot more quickly, and then I'm trying something else, which is closer to this. Well, now it's a product, but this company, again, error monitoring. They're called Sentry, and they started off just as an open source project, a bit like kind of how WordPress is. Like, they started off as an open source project, and then they ended up as a product. GitLab also feels a bit that way, and that's kind of what I'm trying with the DevOps, which is, although I need to find a new name for that, but for server. On the server side, I'm playing with the idea of having an open source project and then developing that in the long run into a product, because the idea is that the open source project is for people that will do it themselves, and then the product is, once the value is established for the guys that do it themselves, then people that want a GUI or something around it will pay for that.
Yeah, I kind of have the same experience. I've tried a couple times to create a plugin that was going to be paid off the bat. So, you know, we'll talk about premium versus freemium, but I tend to just want to build things. So I build them, I throw them on GitHub, and if I see a need, or I see people actually using it, then I might actually create a pro version. And that just never is really the case, or it hasn't been as of late. I'll just build something. My latest big plugin project was actually an admin that was tied into the Stripe API. So it would just communicate with Stripe and through the Stripe API. So basically, it was a way to manage your Stripe account and deal with customers and subscriptions and everything that Stripe does, but without actually leaving your WordPress environment. And it was all built, you know, with Angular and a single-page application right there in the WordPress admin. The only reason I built that was, one, I kind of thought it was cool. It was a cool idea, and as soon as I think of a cool idea, I'm like, that's the most fun I have when I'm coding versus like bug fixing and stuff. And two, I actually had a client that needed it, and there was nothing out there that would solve their problem, but they didn't have the budget to pay for me to build it for them. So I built an open source plugin, and then I charged them to modify it for their needs, which I think is a lot of my plugins out there. It's usually like, you know, Chris was mentioning this earlier with his clientele. You, as a developer, you can kind of do that a lot, where you can kind of say, well, if you're not paying for the whole plugin, I'll build out an open source version that has nothing to do with your business specifically, open source it, or, you know, sell it as a premium, and then modify it to fit their needs as a client. And then you kind of have you kind of have this plugin that you can put out there, get your name out there a little bit more, and you still have that client that needs that plugin built for their business needs.
That brings up an interesting point too. Like like I said, this client that needs something to work with this third-party scheduler. I looked all over. There's no WordPress integration. There's not even that much of a documentation on the whole thing. It's just they provide you a JavaScript in your panel, and you post it in your HTML, and it pulls in their scheduler stuff. And I'm like, well, this is really hard to manage through a multi-site when it needs to be different for everyone, so I'm going to build a plugin for it. But the whole time I'm thinking, they have a lot of clients, and I bet a lot of those clients are on WordPress. Where's the ethics here? Do I build and charge this client for the plugin and then just throw it on the repository or offer it for sale? Is that cool? Is that okay to do? It's not like I would mention it, or would I mention it to the client? Hey, I'm going to charge you to build this, but I'm actually going to see if I can sell it on the side too. Where's the moral line there? Is that way too off topic? Does go way too off topic?
No, I think that's a good one. And for this reason and many other reasons, if when I do work, I put it right in the contract that this is GPL license code.
Mm-hmm.
I do that for both of our protections, right? So that way, now I can include other, right? I can cut it. I can include GPL in other free software license code and do my job better without either myself or my client worrying about copyright infringement or anything weird like that. Also, it's WordPress; it has to, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But also because, yeah, dude, we have so many products that started as client stuff. Like there's some, like we were just going through the products on our site. There's a couple things where it's like, yeah, that sold twice. It's like, so why did you guys, like that was predictable? The question's like, why did you release it? It's like, well, because we got it for a client. But yeah, like even some of the stuff that sells really well, we built for clients. Like I love doing that, but I would come some special deal over it, right? They want a plugin that doesn't exist, I'm going to make it, and if I want it, if I think it has value to put on the repo or to sell, then I'm going to sell it. I don't think there's any moral or ethics there, but that's part of why it says that in the in my contract with GPL. But like when somebody, like I have a client right now who hired me to make them a plugin that they're going to use as a product. Yes, I require that to be GPL, but like that would be morally wrong for me to turn around and make it my own product. Like that I'm not going to do.
Good point. Very good point.
But that's different. They're like a plugin company that's hired me to make their version 1.
Way different.
Like that would just make me a shithead. It's not like a client that's like, hey, I need this thing, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going to make you that thing. And now I have that.
You don't give a discount for a client that you know you're going to eventually maybe even sell their plugin that you created for them? Like you won't even give them like a little bit of a...
If I really... This is about the only time I will let somebody negotiate me on price is if I have a feeling that I want to release it, and I like, then when they're like, no, I'm not going to do that, then I'll give them, maybe $1,000 off or something, just because I really want to do it. What?
If they don't bring it up, you don't bring it up. I mean, that's where I'm at. My client has no clue what WordPress plugins even are. I just built their thing on WordPress, so it's like it's not even a topic of what are you going to do with code. So it's like I don't know. This is one of those clients too where you don't really have a written and signed contract. I know a lot of people do it, and I know a lot of developers don't. This was an email-based, let's get going, here's a deposit kind of thing. So I don't have a GPL line in a contract with them.
You should.
I know, Josh. I know.
I'm sorry,
right?
Chris.
So bringing this back,
Chris.
So bringing this back into topic a little bit, for those of people that are trying to get into this whole space, I find that we're talking about one side of it, like building out a plugin for a client, and then you end up releasing it, or whether you do it for free or not. There's another aspect to that, and Josh and I have kind of dabbled in this, and I've dabbled in this quite a bit, which is release a plugin, get someone to like it, but doesn't fit their needs specifically. Like then you'll get clients that want you to modify your plugin for them, right? So just another way to bring in clientele. If you are a person who wants to create a product that also then gets you service-based work. Plugins in the repo, especially if you go straight freemium, right? So a straight free plugin that does something very unique will get you a lot of attention. I had this happen to me with my WPRTC plugin, which is a video chat plugin. It's just a simple plugin. You install it, throw up a shortcode, and boom, you have a video chat room wherever you want it. A lot of people were asking me about, conference type situations and payment gateways. And while I never built any of that, I had a lot of requests for it. So and that's kind of where another strategic part of product building comes into play. That would be like I was trying to do it as a service-based thing, a one-off for every person. But when you have that many people requesting things, I don't know, Chris, if you have, but I'm sure Josh, you've got this. Where's that line? Where's the line of like, okay, I'll do a one-off for this person versus, hey, that's a good idea for an add-on and or a new feature. When do you say, okay, it's a new feature, hang on, I'm going to build this out for everybody?
I actually do have experience with that because I was helping a company develop. This company is just a few guys, but their whole life is built around these premium plugins that they have. And one of them, it's only got like 600 active installs, but they get a lot of requests for unique features. And I'm not part of their business. I just know them really well, and I do work with them. But what they do is they say, okay, this is how much it would cost, and you have this long before we release it into the wild because that's going to become a core feature. And that people agree to it. They've actually done this multiple times, and it's worked. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I've added features to plugins for a price, like, said, like, hey, that's a cool feature request if you want it, like, it'll cost this much. It's kind of funny when, I almost wonder, like, with some plugins that could be a business model, like either implementation or special features, making, like, a really lean plugin that has a core, does the core, but needs lots of custom implementation. But does it really well, and having it be very custom implementation would make for a good product, not just be a way of sucking people in. I think that's an interesting model that hasn't been explored enough. Also, I think the model of like, here's a plugin, but support's super expensive, and don't bug me otherwise, is an interesting model. And I think that the here's a plugin and it costs $1,000 is an interesting model that can be put in more, depending on what the product is.
Have you ever added a feature based on a request and then just had someone actually pay for it, but then just released it as a feature, whether into the pro version and or free version?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. That's it. Yes, he has, Brian.
All right. Comments? That's just like, yep.
True story. It's happened.
Yeah, cool story, bro.
So for your guys.
We lost Josh.
All right. So for your guys.
That's why we bring me a podcast.
Yeah.
Josh.
We can make this a premium podcast. We can charge for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take donations. Who would you
for
want?
$5, I'll say what you want in my podcast.
You know, highest bidder.
You're gonna have to edit this.
Yeah.
There's a big cut, Josh.
Yeah. Anyway, how often do you guys do updates to your plugins? Because I find that, and this is kind of like adding to the whole conversation of getting into plugin or product development, is I always kind of hoped, and this is just kind of my personality, as I said earlier, I kind of just go straight into building something right away. I hate supporting it after I built it. Like, once I've built something, I'm like, here, have it. Do you have problems with it? Shut up. Like, don't bother me. I want to build something else now. So how often do you guys throw up updates, or do you guys schedule that, or is it just like whenever an update is needed? What do you consider a good cycle for all that?
Oh, you got it on WordPress.org. You got to constantly be updating. Like, this is something I learned from Chris Wegman, is that, even if it's just like modifying your README file, people want to see that your plugin's been updated and it helps you in the search engine rankings inside of WordPress.
Yes, it does.
It's so for SEO reasons and for just like I'll get people will message and say like, oh man, is this still under active development? You haven't done a release in a month. Like, yeah, bro, like you look at our GitHub. Also,
yeah, there's 10,000 actives. What do you think's happening?
But also, I do think like I've been on like projects, including my own, where it's like we have some stupidly long set of goals for a release, and we're not doing our users a service by who aren't the type to go to GitHub to sit on 12 bug fixes, right? Like the last version of Caldera Forms was purely because we had all these features planned that we hadn't finished, but we had literally 12 bug fixes, and we had a whole list of new low-hanging fruit bugs, and there was just like, do you know what? We're gonna spend 2 days and push out a bug fix. No new features.
So you don't release a new update for every single bug?
No, but I'd like to try and stop going more than like 2 weeks without a release. That's my goal.
There's a lot of truth in what you said very earlier too, Josh. The fact is, and it's not, I don't think it's a spoken thing, or maybe it is written somewhere, but when you update your plugin, it updates you in the search. You come up higher up. I've noticed it with every single one of my little plugins. When I push an update, I get a surge of downloads, like a nice surge. It can be the smallest update, and then it slowly trickles down. And once I hit 2 or 3 weeks, I'm back to my status quo. But as soon as I push the smallest updates, boom, a surge. There's something about just pushing an update that gives you better ranking in the search, in the repository.
Yeah, I just manage one plugin, and it's super ghetto. It's like sold on Gumroad. So basically, whenever we have updates that we want to do, like it's usually a bug fix, or like if it's gonna be a feature, like we'll just broadcast to everybody that's purchased that there's a new version, and then they can just download it. But generally, it's somebody contacts us, and I'm like the developer, so I'm the one that's gonna fix it, and then I fix the issue. And if there's code to push out, I just send that person a new version of the plugin. Obviously, everybody else from that point on is going to get that version, but it's not sent or updated retroactively because most of the time they weren't major issues in the first place. So, and to be honest, I mean, for our plugin, most of the time it's just like silly support requests that I just have to log in to their admin and fix it because, yeah. Like, yeah, go ahead.
So talking about support, I know, Josh, you kind of have your repo versions as well as GitHub. I think, Chris, you have your stuff on GitHub as well, as well as the repo. How do you guys consolidate your support? Because this has been an issue for me personally, where it's like I have to juggle, and I don't get that many support requests, luckily, because I don't have super popular plugins. But how do you guys consolidate that or deal with that? Juggling between GitHub issues, support tickets that are on the WordPress org repo, stuff like that.
So if Matt Cromwell were here, and I don't like to speak for Matt, but I guarantee you Matt would be talking about the value of using the WordPress.org support for building your product. And I'm going to disagree with him, even though Matt's products do way better than mine, so I'm probably full of it. Which is to say that I don't on .org. I go on there once a week and remind people of the README and sticky post that they didn't read that says they can go to my website to get support. But that's a paid service. And I really appreciate that, like Yoast and Event Calendar. Like that they don't do the free support. Like WordPress.org support, like nobody should do support via bbPress. And WordPress.org support should be burned with fire, and if developers want to provide a link to where they provide support, they should have the freedom to do so.
I don't have any... Oh, go ahead, Roy.
I had I had this great idea of doing support only via my own website, which only created more emails for me when someone actually followed directions and put in a request via my website. But then I'd still have issues on GitHub and the support, the support forum on the plugin itself, which those tend to go, I'm sad to say, a little bit longer without me noticing, because I get the email, it goes into my not even my inbox, one of the secondary Gmail inboxes that you don't see, and I usually get it at work, so I kind of ignore it till later, and then later I just completely forget about it. So it's I tend to be the person that does one big update for 6 months worth of support tickets, and then I'll just do an update if I feel like it. But I since got rid of my support on my website. I tell everyone to just go to the GitHub. And that's kind of ideal for me because I get the notifications there, as well as I check my repos pretty consistently for issues versus the org repo.
Yeah, I mean, there are really great tools for support, like Help Scout, for example. GitHub issues, depending on how you work, might be enough. I think for a small project, one person, GitHub's all you really need. Just don't ever try and do it at BBPress. BBPress is the worst idea for support. Help Scout and ZenHub and Zendesk and these sorts of things, they figured out how to do support right. And for a team larger than one person, if this is what you do all day, you can't really beat Help Scout.
I'd recommend Help Scout as well. I don't actually use it, but I know I've actually worked with it as a subcontractor, and I've actually built out API connections with their API to WordPress. And overall, I just really like their experience. It's a good experience, and it does declutter your email inbox as well, or helps at least organize it a little bit more. So yeah, if you are large enough, if you're getting that many support requests, I'd recommend going to Help Scout as a first option for getting off of, let's say, using just GitHub or the support forum.
I made the mistake of waiting too long to go to Help Scout. I was under the impression it cost money, and I was like, oh, when I need that, I'll get to that. Yeah, it's free for 3 users. Just use it. Start it from day one. You'll thank yourself. If you want to make a plugin professionally, unless you're oh, I prefer Zen, whatever. Just go with Help Scout. Don't screw around. Don't get cute.
It just depends on your size, obviously. I don't have anyone else working on my plugins with me. I also like the idea of, let's just say I like the idea of it being community-driven, so when someone has an issue, someone else will fix it for me. That has never been the case. That never actually works. It's just,
that's a fantasy.
It's a pipe dream I have. That's why I put everything on GitHub. I'm maybe someone will find it cool and make a bunch of pull requests for me and fix everything and make it way better, and then I'll just get all the money. It doesn't work that way as much as I wanted to.
There's no reason not to put it on GitHub, and it's great to get 1 or 2 PRs every now and then, and it's great to be able to show people hey, here's how I did it here. I'm putting more and more of my premium code on GitHub now. But don't, I hear way too many people being oh, make it a community project and people will build it. It's well, what's the reason why they should give you free development? And if you can't answer that, right, that works for WordPress. It's why should people give free development to WordPress? We can list off 1,000 reasons. Why should people give free development to Roy? Maybe there's a few reasons, but how many people does that work for? Somewhere between 0 and 1.
Roy gives free work to Roy.
But besides Roy. If is not Roy, evaluate the following conditions. For all humans that make code as human, if is not Roy, evaluate this set of conditions. You're not going to get that many responses.
I love donating time to myself.
This is getting a little too personal.
Yeah. So I want to touch on one last thing. We're kind of out of time, but it is important. A lot of people ask me about this, and it's not something that I have a lot of experience in because none of my plugins are necessarily successful. Josh is the most successful plugin developer in this chat, so that's just saying something. So uh, freemium versus premium versus free. The basically the pricing model. If you want to get into plugin or product development, one of the questions that's gonna eventually come up is how are you selling it? And I know there's a bunch of different ways of doing it. What have your guys' experiences been as far as the best model? And I'm not even saying from personal experience. Like, let's say there's a plugin that you like. Do you mind paying premium for it without a free version? I know I do. For certain plugins, I don't mind paying even like $100, $200 for a plugin if I know it's going to do what I need it to do. But from a plugin developer standpoint, Josh, what have you noticed has been the best model for you?
For me, freemium. I think that premium only is vastly preferable, but you have to have at least one, if not two things going for it. One, you have to have a product that people can understand without trying it first, right? Like, we went premium only to begin with Ingot, and the way that we implement it, and there's just no way that people are going to ever, I think, digest our way of doing it without just trying it first. That's why freemium made more sense when we went to freemium. The other thing, which is optional but really helps, is if people just trust you implicitly, right? Like, I bought Affiliate WP without ever trying it because I just trust Pippin, right? I was like, I need affiliates, I'm going to buy Affiliate WP because Pippin built it. And when you can build up that, like, I just trust Pippin level, that makes it a lot easier to go premium later. And, like, freemium sucks because you end up spending a lot of money on customers that you don't that like don't pay you anything. And traditional freemium, what you're doing on a like with a SaaS application, you're not spending that much on a customer. Like, you have a fixed customer price. You're not like debugging their server for them. Like, it's running on your server. And that's like the real danger of freemium is, especially in WordPress, is that you end up paying to teach other people to troubleshoot their other plugins and themes that have problems.
Yeah.
So be real careful with it, but at the same time, like, it's hard to beat the freemium. Carl?
I'm not a big fan of freemium, but like, the plugin I have is premium. I mean, freemium is a bit of a mixed bag. You obviously see the success stories of the people that have made it work, and they do quite well, obviously. But you also have the people that try and they just end up with a ton of support requests from the free version and not that many upselling to the premium version, which I don't find super interesting. I also find that it's weird. Like, again, I think it depends. Like, you have to see I think it depends really for each product what makes sense to, and I think Josh alluded to that. It's what makes sense for the product itself. Like, for example, when I was talking about the server project, for me the freemium version is the open source project. It's the do-it-yourself aspect. And then everything else is premium, more or less, after that. Obviously, that can vary. You can see, but most of the time, you really don't want the free people because there's just more support, more headaches. I'm obviously limiting this discussion to small people. Like, if you're a small shop of 1 or 2 people, you're going to end up with a lot of support requests for people that aren't paying. And that's really not very conducive to you making more money or you building a business. So I find that for most bootstrappers, even for SaaS products, the general rule of thumb, if you're a small company, don't do freemium. Just charge. Even most of the consensus is charge up front, actually, because you don't even want the people that are there for like 30 days give you a bunch of support requests and then be like, oh, you didn't do our support request, screw you, I'm gone now. And you didn't get any business out of that, so it's not any better. So it's an interesting discussion, but in general, I'm really against freemium.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. I think that in my experience with my plugins, the free ones end up taking up most of my time, and to the point where I can't add new features to the pro version that I want to. And that deters me from ever building out anything cool with the pro version. The second aspect of kind of like what I was going for, and this is where someone like Pippin has the game set, is as any, I think the way to go is actually a license model, because one-time payment is great for, and again, it depends on the plugin, it depends on the product. Some plugins or some products don't really need a licensing model, but if you think about it, if you have a one-time payment, and this is WooCommerce or WooThemes used to do this, where you'd pay one time, get access to all their themes, like a lifetime license, and then they switched it up because they realized, well, after 7 years or something of you being a client, having paid that $100 7 years ago, they're not making any money off of you, but they still have to support you. And again, they're still updating their themes, they're still updating everything, but you were getting the latest and greatest, but they weren't actually getting any money out of you for it. And that's kind of where I want to be if I was going to start, creating bigger plugin projects. I think that's the way to go as far as if you're getting into things. That's kind of like the ultimate end goal. I just think that maybe freemium is the first step in that process, or maybe you choose kind of one path or the other and kind of just go that direction. Obviously, with a premium only product, you kind of have to have the case for a good sell, and if you just have like a simple plugin, no one's going to really want to pay for it. And again, with WordPress, there's a bajillion plugins out there, so someone's going to end up finding a free plugin that's going to do 95% of what they need, and then complain that it doesn't do the other 5%, and then give you 1 star.
Yeah, I think what Pippin's doing, I see it a lot like a SaaS product. He's just doing a yearly upsell for the product. And now that he's trying, I'm interested to see what happens from his experiment, because now he's charging automatically every year, which is what he wasn't doing before. Before it was like he would send a reminder email. It's like, by the way, your license expiring. You want to renew? And he flipped that around. Now he's just going to charge them every year unless they cancel, which at this point you're more or less a SaaS product just on a yearly cycle. So it's really
that doesn't make you a SaaS product. That's like he's still not providing software as a service.
Well, I mean the support as a service, Josh. Support as a service.
Okay, fair enough.
But what if you don't? It's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah,
I think that ultimately that's where you'd want to go. But obviously, Pippin has the reputation right now to. I mean, he's one of those people that can release anything and people will probably buy it. And he comes out with good ideas, so give it to him for that. And so that's where I think a lot of us developers want to get to. And I think that if you're getting into the game right now, that's what your end goal should be, or depending what you want to build. But that's ultimately the best play, right? Because you can build something, keep it updated, and you're just getting, every year you're getting the same amount back from the same person over and over and over again. It's a great model, but I think it's the hardest one to sell. Yeah, so that's it for today. I don't have anything else. I think that overall, people should be getting into the building products. If you don't know how to build something, learn how to build it. Check out our Level Up as a Developer series. We're going to be talking we've talked a lot about learning code and how to build things. We're going to be talking about a lot more. If you're in Asheville, check out Chris's talk. I think he's talking about something very similar along those lines. I think either with St. Louis or Asheville, you're actually building a plugin with people live, right?
Yeah, I built a plugin that says Hi Roy live. You just put in a shortcode that says Hi Roy on any page or post.
Set that up for you. Damn it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So yeah, I mean, if you want to learn how to build something and you feel the need for you feel like there's a need for something, build it. I'd say the first place to go is free, and then you start adding to it. And then if you want to charge out of the gate, then make sure your MVP is up to par, and that you're charging the right amount for it. And it's not an easy game, I tell you that. It's not something you can just pick up and get going. It's not Field of Dreams. It's not if you build it, they will come. It's a pain. And I know a lot of people got in early, and some of them, there's a really big plugins out there. But to get in now, it's not impossible. It's just hard. It requires a lot of hard work. So I will leave that with a piece of advice. And with that, I will end. See you guys next week. Thank you guys for joining me. And yeah.
Cheers.
Awesome.